It feels almost surreal to be back creating week-by-week episode breakdowns of a Game of Thrones show. I didn't quite remember how much I missed this until I watched the House of the Dragon premiere. After the final season of Game of Thrones, I was cautiously optimistic for this new prequel series, emphasis on the word cautiously. However, the decision to put an entirely new creative team at the helm, coupled with the source material already being complete, calmed my worry to the point of excitement. I am so happy to say that my optimism wasn't in vain. Not only did this premiere perfectly adapt the source material, the Song of Ice and Fire prequel book Fire and Blood, but it provided new, deeper insights into the characters and narrative that even the book didn't give us. Before we dive into the episode, I want to clarify that these breakdown videos will be spoiler-free for any of the plot to come. In other words, I will be spoiling the episode at hand, but I will not be giving away any of the events to come in future episodes. Given that the book Fire and Blood covers so much material, spanning roughly 100 years of time, I was very curious to see where the show would start. The Great Council of 101 AC was the perfect choice. It provided much-needed context to the crisis of the Iron Throne's succession, a conflict that will clearly define the series for episodes and seasons to come. King Heirs was widely considered to be the best of the Targaryen kings, and his reign came to be known as the Golden Age of Westeros. However, even Targaryens can't live forever. Rather than choose his heir himself and risk war with other houses, he let the leaders of the other houses vote for themselves. They all congregated at Harrenhal to conduct this vote, which if you remember was the ruined castle that Arya was trapped at Season 2 of Game of Thrones. Rather than crown Rhaenys, Jaehaerys' eldest grandchild, the noble houses chose Viserys, his younger grandchild, due to his gender. This set the backwards precedent that a woman could not inherit the Iron Throne. Rather than linger too long in this contextual prologue, we are immediately flown forward 9 years into the reign of King Viserys. Very quickly, we are introduced to the main players of this series, and the show does an excellent job of doing so. Many of the core House of the Dragon characters have clear parallels in Game of Thrones, making it easier for viewers to grasp their role in the narrative fairly quickly. Viserys, while arguably a better king, has many parallels to Robert Baratheon, the king at the outset of Game of Thrones. Otto Hightower, Viserys' hand to the king, gives off major Tywin Lannister energy. Daemon Targaryen, with his arrogant and villainous exterior but loving, caring, and familial interior, is analogous to Jaime Lannister. And of course, Rhaenyra is meant to evoke Daenerys, but I definitely also got Arya vibes from her. At this point, Westeros is roughly 60 years into a period of peace. However, potential conflict is hinted at when we hear from Corlys Velaryon that the Triarchy has taken control of the Stepstones. The Stepstones are a series of islands in southeast Westeros. Once a land bridge between Dorne and the eastern continent of Essos, the Children of the Forest transformed said land bridge into a series of islands during their war with the First Men. The islands have been controlled by rogue pirates for many years. However, they've just now been taken over by the Triarchy, an alliance of the Essosi city-states of Myr, Lys, and Tyrosh. Since a large portion of Westerosi trade with other countries has to go through the Stepstones, the Triarchy can potentially toll Westerosi ships for passage, which would be very bad for the economy. Corlys' concern, however, is laughed off fairly quickly by King Viserys and the rest of his council. Their focus is on the tournament, honoring the birth of Viserys' new male heir. This, as we saw, obviously jumped the gun. In the wake of the death of Viserys' wife and newborn son, Otto Hightower is already up to manipulative tactics, forcing his daughter Alicent to go visit King Viserys in his bedchambers alone. In this scene, we see Viserys building a replica model of a city from the Valyrian Freehold. The Valyrian Freehold was the most powerful country in the world, and was controlled by 40 Dragon Rider families. However, Valyria was destroyed 200 years prior to this show, leaving the Targaryens as the only surviving family. Aegon Targaryen would eventually go on to conquer Westeros, starting the Targaryen dynasty. You can see lingering elements of Valyrian culture in the Targaryen family, such as Daemon and Rhaenyra talking to each other in High Valyrian during this episode. Since Viserys was obviously not alive during the existence of Valyria to know what it looked like, could he have seen what it looked like in a dream? Only time will tell, but I'll get back to visions in a second. Partially due to light manipulation from Otto, and partially due to the genuine behavior of his brother Daemon, Viserys decides to forsake the precedent set by the Great Council. He removes Daemon's heirhood and bestows it on his daughter Rhaenyra. He then orders Daemon to return to his wife in the Vale, which, if you remember, is this place from Game of Thrones. When Viserys informs Rhaenyra of this news, we get what is by far my favorite scene of the episode. From Viserys, we learn that Aegon the Conqueror didn't just invade Westeros and begin the Targaryen dynasty just because of a lust for power. Rather, he had a prophetic dream showing the invasion of the White Walkers and sought to unify the country in order to be able to defeat them. Viserys thinks this White Walker invasion might happen during Rhaenyra's lifespan, but the viewers obviously know this doesn't happen till Jon and Daenerys' time, roughly 200 years later. This revelation about Aegon the Conqueror has been a theory circulating the the fan community for quite some time, but not even the books have confirmed this yet. Sure, there have been hints, but this is the first canon proof that this is true. The series even goes as far as to say that this prophecy is passed down from generation to generation in the Targaryen family as the Song of Ice and Fire. In the books, we know that Rhaegar Targaryen, Daenerys' eldest brother who incited Robert's rebellion by kidnapping Lyanna Stark, was trying to conceive the prince who was promised, the chosen one to defeat the White Walkers. He even says as much about his child prior to Jon, but was proven wrong when that child was killed. We now know how Rhaegar knew of this prophecy in the first place. It is mentioned in the books that Rhaegar was shy and always spent his time reading. However, one night he found something deep in the castle library that shook him to his core. The next morning, he went to the training grounds and declared that it is time for him to become a warrior. We can now clearly fill in the blank here and conclude that what he found was this prophecy, the Song of Ice and Fire from which the books get their name. The episode concludes with many familiar noble houses, including the Starks, bending the knee to Rhaenyra as the new heir to the Iron Throne. Of course, not everyone is, or will be, happy with this decision. Westerosi society is incredibly patriarchal and misogynistic, and this decision goes against all dynastic precedent. We'll just have to wait and see the ramifications of this decision unfold in future episodes. Overall, I thought this was the best pilot we could have asked for. It firmly planted us back in the world that Game of Thrones established, but with cinematography and aesthetic choices that differentiated it from its predecessor. The performances were all top tier, as can be expected from an HBO Game of Thrones series. Even Matt Smith's Daemon, who I thought was horribly miscasted when announced, turned out to be a standout. I am so excited to watch the rest of this season unfold with you all. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content of this nature, be sure to hit that subscribe button. You can also ring that notification bell to be updated whenever I upload a new video. If you'd like to check out my fiction writing as well as my vlog channel, visit my website withkoji.com/@GurrenHime. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next week for episode 2.